Hello and welcome to the Planet Pearl podcast. Thank you for joining me on my very first podcast. My name is Pearlin and this is a podcast about knitting, crochet and all the crafty things I make from my home in Christchurch, New Zealand. I'm Planet Pearl on Ravelry, Planet Pearl Pics on Instagram, and I also write about my maker's lifestyle at www.planetpearlliving.com. I grew up in a very crafty home where making things was the way of life. My both grandmothers, my paternal and my maternal grandmothers, were very crafty, and my mom, my aunts all made things. My mom especially made all my clothes, sometimes without a pattern, and she crocheted. I did not learn crochet or knitting from my mom or my aunts though. I dabbled in a lot of crafts, but I really did not crochet or sew until we moved to Kuwait, where I learned to crochet around 2002 with the help of online tutorials, and then in 2006 I learned to knit again from online tutorials, and I crocheted a lot, but I did not knit much, although I knew just the basics. And then when we came to New Zealand, I started knitting a lot more than crocheting, because one thing, I hurt my arm, and then I discovered all the gorgeous indie dyed yarns in New Zealand, and that's basically my little crafty introduction, I guess. To start off, I would like to show my first finished object. I finished this shawl some time back, and I have not shown it anywhere else, so I thought I would start off with it because I just love this color. So this is the Boneyard shawl by Stephen West, and I made this shawl as a knit along with my friend, and I took it to my knitting group, local knitting group here, and it was a quick finish. I used a 4.5 Shagu needles, and this is a free pattern, and I used, like I said, 4.5 Shagu needles, and the yarn that I used is naturally dyed Romney wool yarn from Rosewood Yarns, which is indie dyed yarn company from the Waikato region in New Zealand. So this yarn is really like rustic, but I'm told that it will soften with use, so I'm looking forward to blocking it because I've not blocked it yet, and I'm really looking forward to wearing it during winter. And so that's my first finished object, and I have not knit anything very complicated yet. I would say I'm a beginner knitter. The second finished object I have is the Bauble Cowl by Ina Alexandrova. I hope I'm saying her name right. This is also another free pattern that on Ravelry, and I used Nanaba artisan yarn in white gum wool in the colorway Shabby Rose, and I used 4.5 mm Shagu needles. That's my favorite needle, and I use it for almost all my cowls and shawls, and the brown yarn that I used for this one is Naturally Harmony color tweed in 41. This is another easy knit, and this gum wool is so soft, and I just can't wait to wear it in the winter. And I just love the gradient, and it's so beautiful. And even if I say so myself, but that's another finished object. And the third finished object I have is called lace crochet coasters. This is from the book called Boho Crochet by Mering K. Slump. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, but this is another very easy pattern that I've made many times before. And I'm setting up my blogging nook in my bedroom, and I wanted kind of pink. It just happened. I didn't really mean to have it all pink, but then just somehow it all fell into place and it kind of got pink color going there. And so I wanted to make some pink coasters for the table, and so that's why I made these. This yarn, the yarn that I've used in the center is an Egyptian cotton yarn that my friend gave to me a very long time ago when I was in Kuwait and we had a meetup. And the yarn that I've used for the edging is Laura cotton from India, and I used 3.5 mm addy hook for this. And I quite like this pattern. I've made, like I said, I made it many times before. And so that's my finished objects. And now I would like to show some of my works in progress. The first one I have is the weekender blanket from this is another free pattern by Sandra Paul of Cherry Heart Sandra. I think it is Cherry Heart Sandra. And I'm using all New Zealand hand-dyed yarns mostly for them, and there are some hedgehog fibers also in them, and I really love how it's turning out, and I enjoy working on this project a lot. And I'm using a 3.5 mm addy hook for this as well. So that's my first finished object. That's my first work in progress. And my second work in progress is this sock. And this year I wanted to get deeper into knitting, and so I decided to take a sock knitting class in my local yarn store. I actually tried to teach myself to knit socks, and this is the sock that I tried to teach myself. But then halfway through it I lost track of what I was doing, and then I didn't have the motivation to do it again. So I thought that it would be a good idea to take a class and have a few people around me to feel motivated, and that's why I decided to take the class. I have finished the first class, and this is how far I have come. I will post a vlog of my class later, and I'm using bamboo DPNs for it. That's 3.5 mm, I think, 3 mm DPNs, bamboo, with this yarn called Bellissimo. It doesn't have a name or doesn't have a name color or anything, but this is how it looks on the wound up. So that's my second work in progress, and I have it in my absolute favorite maker's bag that I made myself, and that's my second work in progress. I have all my yarn for my weekender blanket in this antique basket that I picked up on a trip to Nelson a long time back, I think around 5 years back. So the third work in progress that I have is the gradient cowl band by Joji Locatelli. This is a project that I started as part of a KAL that knit along that Joji was hosting in November. I thought I could finish it, but I didn't. But the interesting thing in this is I learned how to do the provisional cast on. So the yarn that I'm using for this project is by Happy Go Knitty, which is another indie dyed yarn in New Zealand, and this was part of a shawl kit that she did, but I didn't make the original shawl pattern that came along with this kit, and I decided to use it for this project. And this is 80%, this is silk merino yarn, and the needles that I'm using is 4.5 Shagu fixed circulars. So that's my third work in progress that I have, and I have all my other yarn from in this bag, project bag, which I made with the Rifle Paper Company, and so that is that. And so I have my little notions box and all my little stuff in here, and it's a very handy little bag for me. So that's that. I also make project bags to sell on a website called Felt, that is like Etsy but New Zealand based. So I make these drawstring pouches that's for keeping small projects like hat, scarves, and it's very handy, and all the people who have got it from me have really liked it. So, and I enjoy making it a lot. So so that's my bag. This is one. I have a few other as well, and there's a mermaid one. This is one of my favorites. And it has polka dot lining inside, and there's another one, another octopus and mermaids, and it has striped lining inside. So that's another one that I have. And this is the forest print. My favorite print is the woodland print, so I often use woodland prints in my projects, and it has the lining is a beautiful bird lining inside. So I love mixing fabrics and different patterns and making these bags. Recently I've been making these little project pouches to give as gifts for Christmas, and they can be used as notion pouches. And this one is made of a floral fabric that is from Tilda, I think. I'm not really sure what fabric it is, but and with a polka dot lining inside. It's squishy, and it is lined, and I made a bunch of these to give as gifts for my children's friends and teachers. And this is another one. This is also by Tilda, and this one has a blue lining inside. So that's my projects this week. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.